So when you think about every individual person, in the course of every single person's life, sooner or later, at some point in their life, that person is always going to confront an uphill battle. Something will happen that seems like it's an insurmountable obstacle that that person can never ever pass. And in this day and age where we live in a society that is so atomized and so hyper individualized, those uphill battles can seem 10 times harder than ones that our parents or our grandparents or our ancestors fought. Because for the first time, our people feel as though they are alone. Even when they're surrounded by their own kin, they so often feel alone. This is not a natural state for a race or nation of people to be in. This is a state which has been deliberately and carefully engineered by our enemies. It's been engineered because a people who can be atomized and a people who can be made fearful and made alone are a people who are very easily conquered. Even if they have the capacity within themselves to resist an enemy, because they feel like they are facing that enemy themselves, resistance becomes futile. And so that war is lost. It's a war that is lost in the mind before it is lost in the street or in the field. There are two great struggles that our people are facing. The first struggle is the struggle of actually confronting this enemy, confronting the organized political enemy of international finance, of reaction, and the organized establishment of the old parties. But the first and most important struggle is an inner struggle. It is that struggle that every person has within their own will and their own mind, where they decide, will I confront this enemy, or will I walk away and hide in the hope that this enemy spares my life? This inner struggle is by far the hardest struggle. A people that have already lost in their own mind can never win under any other circumstance. And a people that have already won that struggle in their own mind, that have recognized the power of their own will, that understand their own limitations and their own capabilities, a people that are prepared to actually learn and grow and develop and fight, a people that have done that, they have already won. They have already won the struggles to come because they've already found within themselves the inner strength that they need to fight even the strongest foe. But our enemies have sought to destroy this. They've sought to destroy this through a variety of means. And one of the worst ways that they've attacked our people is with poisonous political ideology. In particular, an ideology that has become dominant over the last 50 years, liberal capitalism, the kind promoted by Margaret Thatcher, the kind promoted by Tony Blair, the kind promoted by everyone that has followed in the House of Westminster criminals. This ideology is a weapon. It's a weapon designed to engineer a state of greed and selfishness in our people. It's a weapon designed to cause our people to do everything for their own gain because they honestly believe that everybody else is doing exactly the same thing. We face an enemy that will look at any weakness we have and use that weakness to exploit us. If they believe that our people lack resilience, then they will purposefully attack and attack and attack, chipping away at that resilience until there is nothing left. If our enemy believe that we are susceptible to greed, then our enemy will deliberately dangle all kinds of money and all kinds of jewelry in front of our faces to turn us away from whatever goal that we have. If our enemies believe that we are susceptible to mindless and irrational thought, if they think that they can manipulate us by appealing to blaming or to blaming a person, rather than blaming a system, then our enemies will constantly throw a scapegoat in front of our eyes, knowing that all the time that we attack that scapegoat, the real architects of our evil are going untouched and unpunished. In order to be able to face this enemy, it requires us to banish two things. First, we have to banish hypocrisy. We have to understand that the world that we want to live in requires us to behave in a way, it requires us to behave how we want others to behave. Everything we do has to be rooted in example. And every vision that we have has to be one that we can share with people with our own mouths and our own hands. We must banish hypocrisy. And the second enemy to banish is delusion. We cannot allow ourselves to fall for the tricks of con men, for the tricks of people like Nigel Farage or people like Rupert Lowe. We cannot allow ourselves to be dragged back into the same failed ideologies, repackaged and rebranded. If you go to the slums of East Asia, there is a really twisted custom that takes place where in some of these poorest slums, men will go to the garbage bins of these high-end restaurants and they will take the garbage, batter it, deep fry it, and sell it to the poorest and most desperate people, and they call it pag pag. They take yesterday's trash and remarket it as something that seems wholesome. And so once you understand this, you realize that all these reactionary parties all these endless rebrands of the same failed ideology, you realize that Restore, Reform, Advance, all of these Tory rebrands are British politics' version of political pag pag. If we are to defeat this enemy, if we are to realize our vision for a national reinvigoration, we have to understand that wars are won not by the ability to inflict pain on other people, but by the ability to take pain ourselves. You can be a man who can throw the strongest punch, who can fire the strongest rifle. You can be a man who fields the biggest army. But if your men cut and run, if your enemy can take a bullet, take a blow, can be bleeding to death, and yet still, even if it's with the last atom of their strength, turn around and drag you to the grave, your enemy will win. And your enemy will win because they possess something which you did not, which was resilience. A war is won not through harm, but through sacrifice and hardship and the ability to take pain. If I think back to my first days in politics, and I know there's people here that have been engaged in this struggle for many, many years, and they will have crossed that same horizon many, many years ago. That horizon where a person ceases to be afraid of pain, they cease to be afraid of suffering, they cease to be afraid of the hardships that come, not because they believe that those hardships won't exist, but because they accept that the alternative to that pain is enslavement and genocide, and nothing on this planet could be worse than that, because when a people are dead, nothing remains. Life is something which has to be earned, it is not something which has to be given, and we understand that the only way to survive is not to learn how to deal pain to others, but to learn how to take pain for ourselves. Our enemies will always offer us, like any perverted general, our enemies will always offer us an easy way out. They will always dangle some escape route in front of our face that deep down we know will only stave off this genocidal rampage of our people for another 50 or 100 years. But they do it because they know that our people, made weak through time, made weak through these corrupted ideologies of the last 2 or 3 generations, they know that so many of our people will see those easy ways out and take them. In the most recent years, it's become a way to dangle the corpse of Margaret Thatcher or the corpse of 1970s Labour in an appeal to the political necrophilia of many people on the British right to take those corpses and convince themselves that they are great and beautiful things. Our enemies will offer us that way out, and they will never stop doing it. If we are weak enough to be susceptible to that rhetoric, if we are weak enough to be susceptible to those plans, then those plans will constantly be thrown, that hand will constantly be given, and our people will time and time again fall victim to the can being kicked down the road for another 30 years, all the while we grow weaker and our enemies grow stronger. Which brings us to understand what is the purpose of our party. The purpose of the party is nothing less than to become the conduit for the reinvigoration of our people. The party exists to serve the national agenda, the program of this party. This party exists because, quite frankly, nobody else other than us was ever going to create it. So the choice that we faced was to either sit and allow ourselves to be dragged into oblivion, sit waiting for help that will never come, or accept that the only way to help ourselves is to do it with our own will, our own work, and our own hands. And if we are to live, then we will live by our own decision. We will live because we have made ourselves live. It's very easy to believe that everything we do is driven by this holy vengeance against our enemies. And make no mistake, this vengeance will come. And make no mistake, everything that our enemies have done to us will be done to them, but with 1,000 times the fury, because they do not know the level of hate and the level of pain that they have imposed upon our people. Some of them deep down they do, but they believe that our people are beyond help. So they believe that it's not a situation they will ever have to confront. But more so than this drive for revenge, we are also driven by this desire to reconcile. We see so many of our people who fall victims to the con men, to the charlatans, to the populist crooks. We see people falling victim to Nigel Farage, to Rupert Lowe, to Zach Polanski, people falling victim to Jeremy Corbyn, and so many of these people, they are our people. We do not hate these people, but we absolutely hate what has been done to them. There is going to come a time, and it's not a time that will come this week or this month or this year. It's a time that can only come when an entire generation, young people, old people, an entire race of people are prepared to awaken from their sleep. That is when that time will come. It may seem like it will never happen, but what you will find is that one day, just as generations ago, our people woke up to find that one day the British Empire, which they thought was this benevolent, omnipotent God engine, had simply vanished from the face of the earth. One day, our people will wake up and find that actually they are still here. Their spirit is still here. The spirit that they possessed for 1,000 years never died. Instead, it was only sleeping. And when that spirit rises from the grave, and it will rise from the grave, because although it's been thrown into a grave, it's been thrown into a grave alive, and it isn't finished. When that spirit rises from the seeming dead, it will be a spirit that is invincible. And when that happens, it will be so obvious that it will be our people on one set of battle lines and our enemies led by the cabal of international finance with all of their populist minions hanging around like flies round a corpse. It will be us and it will be them. And when that happens, then we shall see, and I know what the result will be, but everybody will see who will live and who will die.